Hi, this is Norma Hubersey. I'm interviewing Becky Carroll with Customers Rock, and we were talking about outsourcing social media responsibilities. What's your opinion, and what are your thoughts about outsourcing social media roles?
Well, it's really interesting. There's a conversation going on. It's kind of two different directions. One is coming, I think, from agencies who see an opportunity to add some additional value to their clients around social media and are hoping to be able to tweet on their behalf, blog on their behalf, create the Facebook pages, and do the ongoing Facebooking for them. But I really believe that it's more important for a company to keep that in-house for a couple of reasons. One is, it's your brand. And you have the voice of your brand. You know what's going on with your brand. You're able to see behind the scenes, this lunchtime conversation that took place. You know what's happening. You know what's happening in the customer service department. You know what kinds of things you're planning for marketing. And as much as you can brief somebody else, be it an agency or an intern even, it's not the same as if you've got somebody who's passionate about your brand, passionate about your customers, who's able to be that face of social media. You can't replace that with anybody else. You just can't outsource that, at least in my opinion, not effectively in a way that's going to be open, honest, and authentic, which is what social media is so important for right now.
Absolutely. We were taking a look at whether or not brands should actually have multiple Twitter accounts, for instance, whether or not they should have a brand, their brand name and also their own personal name on Twitter. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I've seen it done different ways. For example, in my talk today, I talked about JetBlue. And they have one Twitter account for JetBlue, but then they also have multiple people who are on that account. And they're self-identifying. And I think it's important to be able to bring it back to the human as much as you can. Just some generic Twitter account for a corporation that doesn't bring the human aspect in is missing the point of social media. Should they have multiple brands? Now, I've seen some people like Dell has their main brand and also then has one for their outlet and one for different areas. If they each serve a different purpose and a different audience, and their audiences really aren't going to cross too much, that could be effective as well. Now, Frank at Comcast Cares, each of them has their own set of Twitter names. Each of the people, he's got 11 on his team now. And there's value in that as well because they are people answering specific customer service questions on behalf of Comcast, and they're all Comcast names in there. So which way is better? I really couldn't say. It very much depends on the corporation, on the culture, and of course, Norma, back to what we were talking about, the goals for social media. What's the strategy? How do you want to interact with your customers? How do they want to interact with you? And a lot of that's going to drive that decision.
Right. What do you see companies doing in terms of monitoring their employees' engagement on social media?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of them clamp down because they're very nervous and they're very concerned. And Frank Eliason from Comcast actually just had a great comment about that. He said, so you can clamp down at them at work, but they're going to go home. Or they have their cell phones. I mean, it's happening in the NFL, right? The Chargers had some issues with one of their players talking about how bad the food was at training camp. And we had the social media director for the Chargers at my social media class at UC San Diego. And he said, yeah, we can say don't tweet in the stadium, but they've got their cell phone. They go out in their car. It's still going to happen. So it's better to embrace it, put some rules and guidelines into place, and talk to employees about what we're doing and what is the importance of this and how we're trying to create a more human touch with our brand. And yes, we want you to be engaged, we want you to be involved, but we still want to make sure that when we add all these things up, it's going to create the right image for our company.
Great. And one last question, where do you see the social media market going? Is customer service by phone no longer going to be in existence in the future, or do you see a combination of different tools that we'll be able to use to engage customers?
I think the real question here is social media going to replace customer service? Is it going to replace the marketing department? Is it going to replace PR? And I think no. I firmly believe that social media is a great set of tools that should be integrated into the rest of the strategy. So the reason I say that is customers have different preferences. Not everybody wants to use a social media tool. Not everybody's on Twitter. We hear about it a lot. It's still a small percentage of people. Not everybody, we know this from eSupport. Not everybody wants to do eSupport. Some of them want to pick up the phone and talk to a live person. Some never want to talk to a live person. So it really depends on your customers, their preferences, their needs, and as long as your strategy is incorporating your customers' wishes, then I think it's going to be most effective. And social media, I firmly believe, will be an important part of that strategy moving forward.
Great. Thanks so much, Becky, for the interview, and we'll see you on the blog post at Customers First. Thanks.